recap biological treatments of abnormality, and on the whiteboard then we are going to look at psychological treatments of abnormality. Okay. You have whiteboards in front of you. My first question is this. I am being observed, okay, and as much as I love being observed, I still get a little bit anxious. Can you give me one sign of stress, one physical sign of stress that I will be experiencing right now on...
Butterflies in the stomach, yeah. Sweating, faster heartbeat. Swelling. Focus on physical changes in the body, so we'll review those in a second. Psychological treatments focus on our thinking, changing our thinking, okay, or our learning, or looking at the unconscious mind. So, for example, a psychological sign of stress or anxiety is that you can't remember things as well, which is a bit of a problem as a teacher. So that's another thing that makes one slightly anxious when being observed. However, it is your job to remember things. So, biological treatments of abnormality that we looked at last week. Identify the 2 biological treatments of abnormality that we looked at last week. Chemotherapy is one way of saying it. Another way of saying it is, guys? Drugs, absolutely. Jasmine, what did you say?
They're convulsive therapy.
Good, electron. My great auntie, who got schizophrenia, would needed a therapy. Oh, give us a repeat. Oh, 2.5. 2. 1, 2, 3. 3.
Well, if it's antidepressants, it will stop from being depressed quickly, so they won't have to go through all that.
So, risks to health. Okay, death, memory loss, and shattered bones. Absolutely. Possible memory defects. Very good. Yes. Memory loss, popular answer. Death in extreme cases. Yeah. Makes you forget most of your depressed stage. Okay, so is that a good point?
Yeah.
Good. It's only ever used though if you're suicidal, so it's only used as a last resort, yeah, when nothing else works. Dangerous death or harm potential. Talk to somebody, absolutely. So even though these 3, I'm going to teach you 3 psychological therapies, don't rub it out yet, 3 psychological therapies. Some of them are more effective than the other, but one could argue maybe it's just the process of actually sitting down and talking to someone that helps, not the actual details of the therapy. SIT is a psychological therapy. Do you know what it stands for?
No.
Stress behaviour. Okay, where it says on the front of the booklet, this week, these are the therapies that we are going to look at that you will need to know for the exam. However, due to a syllabus change, the terminology how they're described is slightly different, so I want you to just add a couple of relevant words on the top of the front of this booklet. Where it says psychotherapies, I want you to specifically write down the following words, and that word is psychoanalysis or phobias. Okay, it comes from the behavioural approach. Can anyone tell me what the behavioural approach says how we acquire abnormal behaviour? How do we acquire abnormal behaviour from the behavioural approach?
Is it due to society and the big the belief system of society? Like, so if everyone's scared of spiders, you'd be scared of spiders as well.
Links into that idea, therefore, it's one word, begins with an L, rhymes with yearning.
Learning.
Learning, there you go. It says all behaviour, all abnormal behaviour is learnt, therefore the therapy is going to work by unlearning abnormal behaviour. Okay, we're going to look in to see how that occurs. When I was 7, they tried to take my blood. It's when I had the mumps and they tried to take my blood. They put a needle in my arm, and for 10 minutes they couldn't find a vein. Okay? Alright, yes. Okay? As a result of that negative experience, every time I now see a needle, okay, I get a fear response. Or put another way, from the behavioural perspective, the needle is the conditioned stimulus, and my fear is known as the
Conditioned response.
conditioned response. Can you, on your whiteboards, can you just write them down?
Yeah.
So what is the stimulus and what is the response for you guys?
Usually I just think this one alone.
About as we are looking at these fears, okay, is that the behavioural approach is very good at explaining fears that we have learned through past experience. It is not very good at explaining fears that things that cause us danger, fear of things that cause us danger when we were hunter-gatherers 1 million years ago. All right, I want you to think about that when we are looking over at your responses. So, fear of the dark, fear of spiders and dogs, fear of spiders. It's 2 for spiders. Fear of the dark, fear of bloods. Okay, fear of the dark, 3 for the dark. Fear of spiders, 3 for spiders. Rats equals fear. Okay, small spaces equals fear. Ants equals fear. Spiders equals fear. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Good. Okay. Now, systematic desensitization works in the following way. I'm going to briefly explain it to you, then I'm going to divide you into groups and get you to do some systematic desensitization on somebody with a phobia. Okay? So, first off, systematic desensitization, if I could just take one of your boards, ultimately works. If I say you're a chilled out man, you are quite relaxed. Absolutely. There we go. So, you change the conditioned response from one of fear to one of relaxation. It is called systematic desensitization because, rather than doing it in one go, you are gradually exposed to the object of your fear through a series of increasingly more fearful situations.
The thing you're scared of. Anyone else will do
Maybe
that?
each line is literally
Yeah, I swear it's something like that.
Yeah, it is. It's like the thing. I think I might talk about a different thing, but
It's
the
disgusting.
thing you're scared of, then they make it a scarier thing every time.
Can I-
Like you've got to touch it.
I was going to do this at a different point in my lesson, but I'm going to do it now. Right. When we evaluate systematic desensitization, we're going to compare it to another behaviourist therapy called flooding. Okay? Flooding is what you were talking about with the fear factor. So say, Yasmin, what are you afraid of? Rats, okay. Right. Flooding is when you would just put people right in the presence of the thing they're afraid of. So, Yasmin, imagine that feel. Yeah? Look at her reaction now. Look at her reaction. Yeah? She is physically getting a little bit scared. She is physically uncomfortable. Yeah? So even the thought of the rats is causing her to be uncomfortable. What happens in situations going from the least fearful to the most fearful? And what the participant does is at each point they relax at each stage of the anxiety hierarchy so they can get to the top and relax right at the end of it. So for example, if you had a fear of spiders, you would start off by looking at a picture of a spider and relaxing. That would be stage 1. Okay? Second stage would be maybe going out into a garden with spiders, a series of stages that you would need to go through in order to desensitize the person from the object of their fear. Starting with number 1, which is going to be the least fearful, up to number 10, which is going to be the most fearful. Your anxiety hierarchy. Starting from the least fearful to the most fearful.
Yeah, but that's kind of driving, not the car. So could have either passed the way,
No, I'm not scared of cars, I'm just scared of driving.
Oh, the street, yes.
To get near to the thought of driving.
Remember, it's classical conditioning. You associate the car
Standing on a
with
chair.
driving. Okay, so part of the steps would be, yes, familiarise themselves with the car, sitting there, not moving. Standing at the bottom, on the bottom of the ladder. You're in this. Right, standing on the first bar.
Okay. In the other minute, because we finished before other people, just have a look and look at the others on the list and see if you can do the exciting stuff.
I think doing the college is going to get rid of the
No.
Look at a picture of a school. Look at school from the other side of the road. Look at school from the gate. Meet a teacher. Spend 10 minutes in school. Spend 30 minutes in school. Spend 2 hours in school. Go to school once a week.
Tall height, looking down from a window in a tall building, standing next to a ladder, standing halfway up a ladder, standing on top of a ladder.
And then looking at the suspension bridge, walking along the suspension bridge with a friend.
That's horrible.
And then walking alone on the suspension bridge, climbing a mountain, then skydiving.
And then talk to regular flyers.
And then go to the airport and watch planes out the window at Cleveland Dolphins Road.
And then talk about the skyline.
And then go up close to the plane and touch
Tooth out. It took an hour, and he took it out in 7 different pieces, and my mouth was full of blood the whole time. So I associate, that negative experience with the dentist, so I'm afraid of the dentist.
Crack.
Yeah, they did, and it's that horrible cracking sound, absolutely.
Oh
So just have a think of that when your phobias, think of what negative experience could have caused them. Last of all, we had you, and you guys did fear of heights again. Yeah, if you could just.
We kind of have like a different 4, 5, 6. A couple stories up from one of them.
Yeah.
And then like you get in like offices and skyscrapers, like big surrounding windows.
Yeah.
Look out one of them like down on the city. And then stand on top of a skyscraper like the Empire State Building, like looking over the balcony. Then stand with a harness on, looking over like a cliff.
Yeah.
Then stand on a cliff without the harness, and then put the harness on and jump off.
A poor experience with your mother, okay, and so anybody, you just get afraid of any situation where someone is trying to help you because your mother treated you so poorly when you were younger. Okay, alright. In a moment you are going to just evaluate systematic desensitization, and you are going to evaluate it by comparing it to flooding. Can someone tell me what is flooding again?
Flooding is when...
In this lesson. So although it says discussion evaluation, I'd like you to actually just write me down some evaluation points of systematic desensitization. And we're going to evaluate it by just comparing it to flooding. So if you answer the questions, just answer the questions basically by looking at the 3 written prompts. If you finish that, just do the extension task. Which type of phobias does systematic desensitization not work very well for? You just need to use your common sense, really. You know what flooding is, you know what systematic desensitization is. Well, it's just, the main one is just
I swear that
doesn't
there's an E in it.
spiders, yeah, snakes, dark came up 3 times as well, yeah, okay, if everybody has those phobias, right, and they are not down to kind of faulty learning, so you just naturally have them, then what are those phobias kind of determined by? Our genes, yeah, basically, why is it my ethical and flooding? Adam, can you do this one please?
Flooding causes psychological harm, and it causes this because of fearing. So for all our systematic desensitization, it's more calming.
It's more calming because instead of like being immediately exposed to your fear, you are
Gradually.
absolutely gradually exposed to your fear.